Couldn't find myself there for a second. I have so many things under there today that I couldn't even find where I was. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our breaking news on Oklahoma data centers. This is a good night. I'm not even sure how to begin this podcast because we have a governor who has declared Oklahoma open for business. And when he declared us open for business, not only are we giving away Oklahoma tax dollars in order to bring those in forms of various forms of tax credits, and we'll talk about that probably more toward the end of this video, but just soliciting places. I mean, we've got a smelter, we've got solar projects, wind projects, now these data centers coming up. And, you know, lots of people have said, so, okay, so we're just not going to have anything. And I have one commenter who happens to be a state senator who has reminded me on numerous occasions that if I would make my post shorter, I wouldn't be creating so many data centers. Not joking. It's Senator Dana Prieto. And yes, he's mentioned that before. And the problem that we have here moving into this whole discussion, I'm going to bring a couple of people on here in just a second. The problem that we're having is do we even know what we're doing? Do we know? Is there any regulation for these? So, for example, even if you wanted to bring a data center in, you felt good about it, you've had a relationship with this business, you feel like it's going to be something that the community wants, you bring them in. What happens if the data center or the people behind the data center say, oh, you know, I don't care that we're dumping mercury into the stream. We don't need to worry about that. Who is going to... Who are you going to call? I mean, I made a post about it on Facebook the other day and I was trying to be funny. And I was like, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters? I mean, it isn't funny, actually, because that's one of the things that people like Sandra Treywick and others have complained about is that we're bringing these companies in, but we have no regulation in Oklahoma to deal with these things. Yeah, we have the EPA, but how close are we to the EPA? Lee Zeldin has said he's changing the agency up. He's now the head of the EPA, appointed by Trump, but he still doesn't believe, according to a post that he just wrote on the EPA website, or Facebook page, actually, EPA Facebook page the other day, the contrails are just vapor. And we needn't worry about these things. So I have grave concerns about this. I know because we've got so many people on a Monday at 1 o'clock that other people are concerned about this as well. So I'm going to bring on a couple of ladies, and I am going to tell you how important. You'll figure this out as we go through this podcast, but it is so important to know your neighbors and know the people around you and have some kind of fellowship with your neighbors. And it's, we know quite a few people out here, but the ladies that I'm going to introduce to you actually are my neighbors, and we didn't even meet until we found out what was going on here in Luther. But I'm telling you, meeting your neighbors is not only joyful. I mean, these two ladies are awesome, but I mean, the more you can interconnect, the better you are at pushing away things that don't really belong in the community. So I'm going to bring on my first neighbor. Her name is Teresa, and I'm going to use your French because I love it. Poisson. I love that name. How are you today, Teresa?
I'm pretty good, except for, our looming future.
I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm just laughing because that was a pretty good comeback. And now I'm going to bring on our other neighbor. This is Destiny Mowers, who may or may not have a small child with her.
I don't. I passed him to his auntie for a little bit, so hopefully, but we may get him.
Well, I don't think anybody would be too upset. That is one darling baby. So, ladies, it is so good to have you on today. And I mean, I'm so glad that we've met. I wish it had been under better circumstances. But I think I'm going to reach out to you, Destiny, to get us started. So I originally saw on the because I've said this to you guys before, and I'm going to say it again. Get on your email for your city councils in your own town, in your town government, and your county commissioners, so that they will send their agendas directly to your email. And then you don't have to go out and go, was the meeting today? Oh, did I miss the meeting? Where's the agenda? Don't worry about that. Go to the website and sign up. Every town will have one. It's really required by Oklahoma open records and open government. So go find that, do that, and they will send you the records to your email. So I saw something on there that was about this, and I don't even remember. Teresa has already corrected me once. I thought it said data center, but Teresa, you told me it did not.
Pardon me?
Teresa, you told me it did not say data center.
No, it does not. It says project. It does not say data center.
Okay, project. And I don't know what I do know that it said Beltline, and I went out and looked at Beltline and found out that they did solar projects, but then they were also doing data centers. And I think I found something on there. So I sent it out to Sandra Treywick, who then sent it out to, I think, everybody in the entire world. And so it got some traction. But then, Destiny, you found it independent of me even. How did you find out about this?
I found out from Sandra. We just moved to Luther from Edmond because we wanted the quiet country. I have 5 children, so I kind of need that. And so we found out, and then I met up with Sandra, and she started telling me about everything going on. We went to the public records and got some emails and found out that it didn't say data center. It said project, which is a little scary to me because is a project going to be something more than just a data center? Is it going to be solar? Is it going to be wind? That kind of leaves it up for anything in my eyes. Whenever I ask questions at the meeting, I don't get answers because I only get 2 minutes. And that's kind of hard because that leaves it up for my imagination of what's going to go there, and it's coming very
tell you they can't answer your questions.
Yes. So, which is hard, because then with anyone, human nature, you're going to think the worst before you can get an answer. And it just kind of meeting with her one evening, it just kind of went downhill. And then I contacted Teresa and said, do you know this is happening? This is going to be in our backyards. Are you okay with this? And that's how I got to meet Teresa. Like I said, we're new to Luther. So it was just like, hey, I'm your neighbor. And how do you feel about this data center coming in?
It's kind of funny that you say that, because one of the things that is almost a good thing about these dumb projects is the fact that they sure are bringing neighbors together. And, we really do need to be united on numerous fronts and know our neighbors. Julia said, City of Yukon said they're considering one as well. I don't think it'll fly here. Well, here's the thing about that, Julia. This is Beltline. Beltline is thinking about Yukon as well as Luther. It's the same project.
That is true.
And John says, who owns the data center and how many will be foreign owned? And I mean, in this particular case, this is a company called Beltline Energy that's out of Atlanta. And I found out something this afternoon that really concerned me. So do you remember there was a meeting, an initial meeting, because we talked about this being on the agenda for the town. And that was what date?
The initial meeting was the 21st of May.
Okay. And I remember we went, and I had done some research before we got there. And Beltline, there was an article on the internet about Beltline being told that they could not do any more developments in Atlanta, which is their home base. And I can't find that now.
Oh, really? Well, actually, if you're talking about the public meeting, it was May 29th.
Okay.
But speaking of Atlanta is so happy with their data center progress and all that they have. They are tightening the bans on data centers because they've had so many problems and the residents aren't happy. And there's a lot of concern about water, power, and pollution.
No, you don't say.
Yeah, just a few things.
So, Destiny, is it you or Teresa? Which one of you got the FOIA request?
That was me.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I wanted to make my presence known at the meetings. And so I just kept on going, and I just kept on asking anyone, do you have any information? Do you have any information for me? And just so happened, this kind of fell into my lap. And so I was like, all right, if this is public record, then I feel like everyone should know, not just me, not just in this little square that they're going to be, not little, let me take that back. This is a 400-acre square that they're wanting to put this in. But I think everyone should know who's leading you. Is the mayor, is everyone on the board of trustees, are they actually for the people of Luther? Or are they for themselves? And that's a huge question because this is a big thing. So if they can pass this huge center underneath everyone's faces, what else are they going to pass underneath your face that could be smaller, but still have an effect on you?
Well, Teresa, you had, and I'm going to throw this up, I think. All right. So this was shocking to me. And I used to be the mayor of this town. Terry Arps is the new mayor. He succeeded me. Tell me what this is.
This is a non-disclosure agreement between Beltline Energy and the town of Luther, which means that no one, not the trustees, not anyone who is a public servant for Luther, not anyone who works for the town of Luther, can talk about any information that they know about this AI data center.
So what is an NDA?
It's a non-disclosure agreement with Beltline. It means that Beltline has the ability to control any information that is released to the public. So, for instance, when they put up the agenda for the original town meeting, they sent their blurb for the agenda off to Beltline, and Beltline came back and said, no, say this instead. So
data center, say project. It sounds better. Wink.
Well, yeah, they also didn't want, it said to be considered by the board of trustees, and they wanted it to say an introduction of the project to the board of trustees, not to be considered by the board.
Now, how did you find out that was the case?
How did I find out? Oh, through the emails where Sherry Pidcock, the manager of the town manager, she actually sent an email to Charles Kuntz, one of the partners in Beltline Energy, to say, this is what we're going to put in. Let me pull up that email here. This is what we're going to put in the agenda. And he came back and said, no, put this instead. So let's
And
see.
that was recorded in one of these emails, because I see, I was just telling Teresa before we got on, without Michael here to show me how to make it bigger, I'm having a little bit of trouble.
Just
So
one
I'm going to
second.
try to work on that.
So that email was, it looked like on the 27th is whenever they said about the data center. And then Charles came back and it said, you know, it basically looks good, but if you need any help, we would like to change the word to project. And so that is the original email that she sent out on the 28th saying project instead of data center.
Well, her original comment was presentation by representatives of Beltline Energy regarding potential location of a data center within the town of Luther, related discussion and possible action by the Board of Trustees regarding the data center. Mr. Kuntz came back and said, please use this instead. Presentation by representatives of Beltline Industry regarding potential location of a project within the town of Luther, related discussion and introduction of the project to the Board of Trustees.
So let's reiterate. Beltline Energy wrote the item on Luther Town agenda.
Correct. And then Sherry Pidcock sent it to the town attorney to say, this is what we're going to say.
And the NDA had been signed by then or not?
No, the NDA did. See, let's see. This was dated May 27. The NDA, according to the document, wasn't signed until May 29th before the meeting.
But there is communication back on the 28th saying we don't see any problems with the NDA and that Charles was going to bring a copy for them to sign the night of the special meeting, which would have been May 29th.
So who didn't see the problem with the NDA? Oh, I'm sorry, Teresa. Who didn't?
Evidently, Beth Childs made a couple of changes to the NDA, and he said we don't have any problems with those changes. And then he met with her at 4:30 before the town meeting.
Well, and let me reiterate, or let me add in there, the town meeting was supposed to create transparency about what was going on. And I'm not sure how many times I heard the word transparency in that meeting. Do either one of you want to check me?
Well, Sherry Pidcock has emails about how they're going to keep the town informed. And this email is actually on the 23rd. I think it's the 21st or the 23rd, to Jared, one of the trustees. And she knew on the 21st about the NDA because Charles Kuntz emailed them after their meeting on the 21st to say he would get a copy of the NDA to them. Now, interestingly enough, in all these emails to the Board of Trustees and the employees and all of that, there is no mention to anyone but Terry Arps and the town attorney that an NDA will be signed. So I don't know if they verbally told all the trustees there would be an NDA, but there's no formal communication about it.
Well, I will say this. I called Jared Davis, who is one of the trustees, and I talked to him about what was going on and some of my concerns, our concerns. And I asked him if he was aware that the mayor had signed an NDA, and he was not.
And what date was that?
That's a really good question. I'd have to go back through my phone. But I would say it's been maybe 2 weeks since I called Jared, and he still was not aware of any NDA.
And it's June.
Right.
I mean, I don't understand how, as a matter of just transparency within government, you don't inform all of your board of trustees that Beltline is asked for an NDA, and you ask for their feedback on that. I mean, I don't think that a town, I don't think a town should sign an NDA with anyone without disclosing that to their citizens. And I think that there should be something in the town bylaws that says that you can't sign an NDA without disclosing it. But for the very least, you should have to call a vote with the trustees to see if they all agree about signing an NDA. I mean, we're in a position now where we will not get the truth. We will get a politically correct, palatable version of all of this. And this is the habit that these people Google, AWS, Facebook, Meta, all the big boys and the little boys, this is what they do, is they go in, get the local officials to sign an NDA, and then they control the narrative. So
that's 100%. We found that with the solar, when so many people started pushing it back against the solar. If one of the, let's say Invenergy, for example, goes to a landowner and they sign a contract, that contract includes an NDA. They can't disclose what's in the contract to anybody else. So many of these companies, how can it be a good thing if you can't tell me what you're doing?
Well, I mean, on the very first email from Charles Kuntz to Sherry Pidcock, he says that he would like to meet with them to speak to you in regard to a project we are in the very early stages of development next to the Red Bud Generating Facility. Doesn't exactly sound like it's a proposal or a what if. It sounds like this is a project we're doing and we want to talk to you about it.
Well, that's concerning. And Shelley asks, how do we put a stop to the use of an NDA with things that affect the community? And I think that's a question that we need to ask.
I think it's a measure that however you do it. I mean, the mayor would not answer me about how one goes about, asking to have a meeting about a subject. He wouldn't answer me. He said, well, we don't even need to talk about that because this is just, a possibility at this point. Well, it's not a possibility that you signed an NDA. So now I want a meeting about you not signing any more NDAs, you or any other mayors not signing any NDAs. It's just ridiculous. It's like, it's like, I felt like at one point he was just going to pat me on the head and say, honey, just go home. There's no need for you to be upset. Well, I am upset.
That's just kind of what was going on at the meetings, which was a little disheartening because it's like, I'm having to stop my life and come up here and try to see if, are we going to be living something like next to something that's going to be potentially toxic for our water, for our air, for our soil. We didn't move from a city to be right next to something like that.
To live in an industrial park.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, I would have completely went somewhere else if I knew that was going to happen, but this is common school land where I thought that was for hunting and farming, never for a data center to be purchased,
Well, and I'm going to educate our audience and a little bit about school land. So school land is land in the community that has been purchased at some point in time and set aside, not necessarily for another school site, but it can be used for that. But anytime the Commission of the Land Office regulates land that is purchased by a school, okay, or that hold on, let me back up. Commission of the Land Office actually purchases land itself. It does the deals, and a school can expand into CLO land, into that land, but they oftentimes, and they've been doing this on a regular basis since Governor Stitt has been governor, and the Commission of the Land Office is made up of Governor Stitt, the state auditor and inspector, who is Cindy Byrd, the lieutenant governor, who is Matt Pinnell, the head of the agriculture department, who is, oh, please help me. Sandra, you're on. Please help me. Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue, and I won't. It's the secretary of the ag department. So it's all. Oh, and the secretary of education, who is right now. Oh, and she said, and these meetings are not recorded and publicized unless one of us are there. And that's another thing that you need to know about the Commission of the Land Office. So Ryan Walters is our secretary. And I'm still not thinking of the other woman's name. Anyway, there are 5 of them on this board. And statutorily, because Cindy Byrd has told me this herself, statutorily, it says that the Commission of the Land Office is bound to do whatever it is possible to create the most money for schools that it can. And so, for example, if an agricultural lease is less than a solar lease, the chances are they would have to pick the solar lease over the agricultural lease, because they are statutorily bound by state law to make the most money they can. Thank you. I was waiting for you to do that for me. I knew it was an interesting name. Blaine Arthur, the Secretary of Ag. They are bound statutorily to make the most money that they possibly can from the rentals or other use agreements that they sign with this particular land. However, that obviously doesn't take into effect what people in the community want for the land that's been purchased, usually right smack dab in the middle of them. And in this case, in Luther, this is prime land, because the CLO land is doesn't it abut? Is there another property in between? I can't remember. There's certainly, say again?
There's 2 properties in between the Redbud plant and the common school land.
Okay, so they have to purchase those privately owned plots and then go to the CLO board and ask them to be able to lease that for the data center, is the way I understand it.
Yes,
Which, by the way, Beltline has already talked to those property owners and has deals in place, according to Sherry Pitcock's email to Jared.
So what did that email say? I'm curious. Can you read that one?
Sure. Let's see.
In the meantime, while you guys are doing that, I'm going to put up this. Dorn made the comment. The CLO is signing up 55-year leases with these What the heck, Dorn?
Which is very interesting, because I heard the normal person, farmers, they can only lease for a max of 5 years. So I feel like that's a little bit discrimination against everyone that is wanting to use it for hunting or farming, that you only get 5 years, but these big companies get 55 years. That seems absurd to me.
No, I don't think it seems. It is absurd. I agree with you 100%. It's just absurd.
You agree with me.
And while you're looking for that too, I have to throw this comment up because it always makes me laugh. 99% of elected officials are in the business of growing government, not protecting liberty. Most of us are educated by the government to accept that. So did you find the email?
I'm looking to see. There's several other things on this that we should discuss.
That's a good point. Sandra actually says, I wonder if that's lawsuit worthy. Because that is discriminatory. I don't know how you can't conceive that that is discriminatory. You can say, hey, you agricultural people can get a 5-year lease, but you solar people get 55. And here's the other problem. There is not one solar panel that I know of that lasts 55 years. So if you're leasing, not like I'm some kind of solar panel guru, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they don't have a long life. You can look it up because it's glass, and the parts that are underneath it have a tendency to go out. So they don't last 55 years. So it's extremely concerning to me that they would say that they would want a 55-year lease for these companies that are putting these things on them that are basically, you have no idea what they're going to be worth in even 10 years, let alone 55.
The average life of an AI data center is between 10 and 15 years. So then what happens? You just walk off and leave it?
But that is the question, isn't it, Teresa? I mean, isn't that the question?
I mean,
because there's no regulation.
And if it's, I mean, essentially they burn the equipment up, right? Just what happens. They just wear the equipment out. But after 10 or 15 years, and there's not enough of these AI data centers around, so we know exactly what happens at the end of 10 or 15 years. By that time, is the water all ruined? What is ruined? So I have your email here.
Okay.
And this whole email is very interesting. This is an email that Sherry Pidcock sent out to Jared Davis and Carla Carruthers, 2 of the trustees. However, on this same email, she blind CC'd Jeff, did you say Schwarzmeyer? Is that how you
Well,
say
I can tell you why she did that. Yeah, Schwarzmeyer. I can tell you why she did that.
What?
You are not allowed, only 3 of the 5 members can speak about anything at one time. This is just state FOIA or state open government requirements. Only 3 of the 5 can speak together on any one topic at a time. If it was 5 people speaking together on a topic, then it would be outside regulations, and you could be fined and brought up on state law charges for having a business meeting without having an agenda. Well, here's the thing. Here's the reason why they do that. Here's the reason why they do that. So if she blind copies them, they can't respond to the email. Do you follow? And if they can't respond to the email, they can't all 5 be talking about it.
Well, she says reminder not to reply all to this email, but feel free to reply to me. So, I mean, that's a technicality. That's semantics. They're all still doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're blind CCing everybody and only one person at a time is responding to you, but everybody's blind CC'd, hello? I mean, everybody's has the opportunity to talk to everybody.
Well, not back and forth on email. They just can't press you can't. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so it says the mayor and I met with Charles Kuntz, director of the development for Beltline Energy, on Monday. Beltline Energy wants to build a data center. Notice she doesn't say AI data center. She says data center, just east of the power plant. Beltline will attend our May 29 special meeting for introductions before making a formal application for rezoning, either to industrial or for a specific use permit in July or August. It's July, everybody. If the rezoning seems feasible. This would be a several-month process, and we will keep the public informed every step of the way. But I consider this to be semi-confidential right now, simply because we don't have any answers for the public if they start asking. Rumors spread like wildfire, laugh out loud. I think it's a good idea to wait until Beth Ann meets with Beltline prior to our May 29 special meeting before we get excited one way or the other. Just my opinion. Now, before I go on with the rest of the email, the NDA has already been discussed. She knows it's going to happen, and she knows they're not going to be telling the public anything. So then she says, and the reason that Beth Ann is going to be meeting with Beltline before the meeting is to get the NDA signed. So this could, we will post as much information on our agenda for May 29 as we have. So people can attend and hear what Beltline has to say from the beginning. Then, if they make application, there will be 2 or more public meetings after that so the public can attend and let their voices be heard. Mr. Kuntz stated that the data center would employ about 75 people. He also stated that the electricity they use will bring a large amount of revenue to the town of Luther, OG&E franchise tax. Mr. Kuntz also said they have preliminary contracts in place with the property owners where they want to build the data center. Beltline is also looking to build a data center in Yukon. We ask a lot of questions. There is a lot to consider. I'm suggesting everyone do some individual research ahead of time so we will be ready with our questions. Sorry if this info is jumbled and out of order. Have to run to take Dad to the dock, but wanted to get this information to you today. And then she gives the link for Beltline. And now, personally, I think that whole email is a misrepresentation to the trustees because she knows there's an NDA in the works.
And I mean, if you look at the email, that came out on May 21st at 2:22 p.m. And then if you go back for her messages to Beltline at May 21st, same day at 4:52, he comes back and he says, just got back to my office from the trip. It would be great. I would get an email going tomorrow to get the NDA over and get this ball rolling. Looking forward to meeting you all again next week.
That's how we know she knows about the NDA before she says that to the trustees.
Now, she did send this one out just to make it sure, she did send this one out to the trustees at 2:22 and he came back. So I don't know when they had their meeting, but he said he just got back in the office at 4:52.
Oh, they had it around noon. It's in the first emails. It's in the first emails. He had already met with them and left town to go back to Atlanta. And then he sent the NDA. So, like I said, this email is a misrepresentation from the beginning. She knew they weren't going to be able to disclose any information that wasn't in Beltline's control. And then the first crack out of the box, Beltline changes the header for the agenda to explain what's happening.
Okay, if you don't mind, because that's bad. I mean, if you ask me, but I gotta show you something that's this is live news on the fly, peeps. I'm gonna share my screen with you a second here. All right, so I just had a text message from one of the people in our neighborhood. I won't sing the Sesame Street song, but one of the people in our neighborhood just texted me and said the following: this company is currently throwing lines into the river off the bridge north of the pecan farm. Think they're doing some testing for hydraulic transportation for the data center plans just north of there. Well, so I went out to Consor because I said, are there any names on the trucks that you can see? And she says, yes, and on the safety vest on the folks on the bridge. It says Consor. So I went up and looked, and this is Consor. So let's just see what Consor does.
Engineering and construction.
Infrastructure, engineering, and construction. They work on, okay, Willamette Water Supply Program, floodplain restoration project, Sunset Reservoir and pump station rehabilitation, local government and state-owned bridge inspections, Bridge Street bridge rehabilitation. So apparently there's quite a bit of things that they do, but it looks
And they're testing the
as
deep
though-
fork.
It's what they say, what she said.
Well, see, I mean, these data centers, she goes on in another email to Jared explaining that it says, Jared comes back and says he has concerns that would need to be addressed: strain on power grid and water resources, waste production, disposal, or gas emissions. I know they take a lot of water to keep cool and to keep running. Where is that water coming from? Is it something we can use, some sort of treated wastewater, which they can't use treated wastewater because of the contaminants, unless they get it to drinking water quality. These are not for you to answer, just where my brain is automatically gone. And Jared, to his credit, later comes up with a whole list of pros and cons. To me, he seems like the only guy thinking, but anyway. So she replies and says, wonderful questions. I do have a few of those answers, but hope you and others will ask these and many more when they come. They met with OG&E, and there's plenty of power. OG&E gets their millions of gallons from Arcadia Lake or the Canadian River. I'm unsure, but no, there's millions. Water line running to and from OG&E because I saw it being constructed years ago. Beltline says they will use the same water, 1 to 2 million gallons a day. Beltline also said there's a brand new chip technology that significantly reduces the need to use as much water to cool everything. Attaching a link to a flyer from Stillwater that Beth Ann sent to me, which is about the Google AI data center that's going in Stillwater. But here's the deal. They have an allotment of 1 to 2 million gallons a day. These data centers can use more, up to 5 million gallons of water a day. And this isn't just a data center. This AI data center is a mega beast. Mm-hmm. And so we already know that they're not going to have enough water from OG&E. So we know that because Beltline's already written their NDA in their favor, and they will also write their contract in their favor, that there will be something in there to protect their investment, which says if they can't get enough water from OG&E, that the town of Luther is going to let them drill a well or suck up the deep fork or whatever it is that they need to do to get their water.
No. Okay, let me throw a couple of comments in. And you asked what would happen to the data center when it went away. It'll be like a mall, a big empty building that's a responsibility of the city of Luther to either remediate or do something with. And that's exactly right. Because if they sign an NDA, how do we know what the company is going to do? There's no pressure on the company to do.
You can't bring back this wildlife. You can't just have all these trees brought back after they bulldozed them down for all this concrete. Like, all of that stuff is going to go away. And then you're just stuck with this dinosaur of a building that no one wants.
Dinosaur of buildings.
Yeah. This is huge, and like I said, most people go out there because they know that they don't want chemicals in their food. That's a choice. We have all made that choice of growing our own fruits and vegetables, having our own cows. So we're not having all of these chemicals. But once they come in, you're not going to see any more deer. They're not going to want to stick around that. They're going to go somewhere else. You're not going to have all this wildlife, and it's not going to return.
Tulsa Data Center Campus, Project Anthem, potentially Meta, 85% property tax exemption for 25 years. And that is something that we need to talk about here in a second.
All the articles that I have on these things say how the that there's no way to recover the tax discount these companies are getting, because it's only going to run for 10 or 15 years. And that 90%, not after the project is complete, the employee situation drops by 90%.
Well, I mean, how many people does it take to babysit a machine?
Not
well,
75.
I mean, these network engineers, there'll be some of those around, but I mean, not 75 of them. And I don't know, do we have a thriving population in Luther of network engineers that can do AI?
Well, and all of these are good questions. If something's a good idea, investors will be lining up to share in the expected profit. If government has to steal from their neighbors in order to have money to lose, then it's not a good idea. We're not free and clear under our current government. We better start bringing torches and pitchforks. And I thought the same thing, because when we
well, it's interesting. Jared in the later email says the exact same thing.
Yes. 100%. And that's why I laugh, because that's exactly what Jared said. Is like, oh, they're just going to be coming at us with that, you know?
He said this is a little early for pitchforks.
But I always say, if something sounds too good to be true, it's normally too good to be true. You know, let's go back and let's think for ourselves, and let's use common sense. You know, if these were good buildings to have, then everyone would want them. But everyone always says, let's not be like California. Well, California put in laws because they don't want these data centers. So we're going to come to Oklahoma, where it's like the wild, wild west, and our governor wants this. And we're going to put in all these data centers because we can just sneak it under the rug and no one will know until it's.
Well, everyone that has them is now putting in legislation to ban them and restrict them.
Yes.
Because they're not a good idea.
Right. So I'm going to pull this in just for a second. So this is what happened in Tulsa, and the Tulsa County Commissioners vote to rezone land for proposed data center in Owasso. And we had on the show Kennedy Garza, who kind of actually was going to live a mile from this proposed data center. And she was on talking a little bit about what happened at the county commissioners meeting. And this is how we know that this can't be in the best interests of the people around, because what ended up happening during this meeting was that the people that were against the proposal that for changing the zoning were actually put in a whole other room with a television monitor. So they were kind of out of sight, out of mind, so to speak, while the Indian tribes and the pipe fitter people and union people who had been called there to say that they wanted this, they got to sit in the room with the other people. So, if that's the case, and that's the way this is going to be played, how in the world can that be open or transparent in any way? It's not. I mean, these things are, I mean, anytime you use the letters NDA, there's something that you're trying to hide, or you wouldn't have to tell people you're not disclosing it.
Well, you're not even willing to tell your own trustees that there's an NDA. I mean, that's not good.
Absolutely. Some of the oil and petro leases are long-term for when the oil pumps are on lands or tank batteries or other such. These leases have their own set of rules and guidelines, yet the remaining parts of the lands can be used or leased to others. And I guess that's the other point, is they have guidelines. They're done through the Corporation Commission. How can government sign an NDA? That has to be illegal. And I think there's some truth to that. They were trying to pass legislation this last session for solar panels to be required to sit no lower than 8 feet so they can still graze cattle under the panels.
Oh my God.
It's true. It's true. And then I'm going to tell you about another law in a second that's going to make people crazy. Large amounts of aluminum are needed in the construction of these data centers to be built, cooling systems, electric ventilation, and structure components. Oh, and is needed for air and land drones. That is part of the deal. Any long-term employees won't be from the local community or even the state. All you have to do is look at what happened with Canoe. We gave $1 million of taxpayers' money to get this electric car company, Canoe, to come here. What ended up happening was they literally jerked Oklahoma around. That shocking, everybody. How shocking. And what ended up happening was, in the end, when they forced them and said, hey, you said you were going to, have some employees in here, instead of bringing in Oklahoma employees, which is what they were mandated to do, they brought in employees from California and brought them here instead, because they were working in Oklahoma. They were Oklahoma employees. So, and this is an important thing. This is all tied together. Aluminum, lithium, power and wind, power transmission lines, all these for these data centers. That's what it's about. Michael, my partner in the podcast, does a lot of work in finance. And he was actually given a proposal one time that showed how this data center would be located kind of centrally, and then it would be sending out information to all these different things, drones and all these things, to make up what they call a 15-minute city, so that everybody had everything they needed that was all being generated from this one data center. So this is it's not good. But I think what we need to understand is what you guys have talked about. You were absolutely aware of what the town was doing. You've been engaged. You've reached out to your neighbors. You've gone to the meetings. You've sent emails. You've let everybody know what's going on. That is the best way to fight these in your town, is just starting there. Ladies, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I have one thing to add. On the 28th, Jared emailed and he sent his list of pros and cons, right? And said, try to add more to it tomorrow. And just a quick search of pros and cons, and then trying to deep dive into some of the more common concerns. Because you remember in earlier emails, she told all of the trustees they needed to have their questions ready, right? And do their homework. But what happened at the meeting is Mayor Arps said, this guy is going to give a presentation, but we're not going to discuss it. He's not supposed to answer questions. This is just a presentation. And since that time, we cannot get Mayor Arps to even talk about it. He will let Destiny or myself or someone else who shows up at the meeting give their little 2-minute spill, but we're not getting anywhere, because he's basically, just pushing it. Okay, I let you talk for your 2 minutes. That's all I'm required to do. I don't have to tell you anything. I'm not going to tell you anything because there's an NDA. But in this email, she's made Jared think that, his list of pros and cons will be discussed. And anybody else's questions, Board of Trustees or the public, that we're going to discuss this. There's no discussion going on. And she said, looks good. There will be a crowd at the meeting for all of the cons. And he comes back and says, well, it's just being an introduction. They are firing up the torches and sharpening the pitchforks quite early. Yep, she said. They know that there are people that are, totally against this and upset about it, and they want a forum to be able to speak about it, and the people are being refused a forum. And I specifically asked the mayor at the meeting, what do we have to do to get a meeting about this so the public can speak, we can ask questions, and you answer the questions? And he wouldn't tell me.
It was just kind of pushed off, like, oh, it's no big deal. They haven't came back. Well, once they do come back, is it going to be too late for any of us to say something?
Well,
Once
obviously,
this rezoning, is it just done after that? And it's like, I told him on the phone, I'm a planner. I have 5 children. I have to plan everything, I mean, there's just, we can't overlap. There's only one of me, so my thing is I told them I'm a planner. We need to know these things. Is this coming in? I mean, is this where, okay, stop unpacking boxes because we got to pack up again and move somewhere else now. And that's terrible because we love where we live. We love our neighbors. I love, getting to know everyone. I would love to go into Luther and start a business. But I can't do that if we're going to have toxic water. I can't do that if we're going to have toxic air and soil. I can't do any of that stuff. I live my life and live our children's lives and not having any of that. It's hard to look at your kids and say, I'm sorry, you can't have McDonald's, but it's not good for you, and they understand that now, but it's still hard some days. And the same thing is, I'm sorry, guys, we have to move again because we can't live next to something that is so new. No one knows, is it good for the environment? Is it bad for the environment? I mean, no one knows. They're so new that no one can truly give you a straight up answer saying, yes, we've done the research and there is a little bit of chemicals, but there's not much, you just don't know at this point. And I don't want to be a guinea pig, and Luther shouldn't want to be a guinea pig, I'm sorry that everyone is sick now because we brought this AI data center in and we just didn't know. We just took their word for it as it's fine. They're just buildings, no big deal.
Well, I'm gonna bring up something right now because I think this is probably the biggest reason what's happening is happening. It all becomes about dollars. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. You could see, I think it was you, Teresa, or I'm not sure, Destiny, who said you could see Mayor Arps at the meeting and the little cha-ching going off in his eyeballs like it was some kind of a cartoon. And I want to point out a couple of things. So I'm going to share my share again with you here so that we can see a couple of things that I want people to be extremely aware of. So I wrote a Facebook post about this that went viral on accident on Saturday. And part of it was because I put a whole bunch of links, and I'll back out in a minute. But what I want you to see is this. The Commercial Real Estate Development Association tracks information on states with data center tax incentive legislation. So who's in the orange right here?
That would be us.
Okay. All right. So here's the other one that I wanted to point out. Meanwhile, at the federal, this is from Data Center Knowledge. There's actually an online mag called Data Center Knowledge. Meanwhile, at the federal level, the White House Office of Science and Technology published a report in September 2022 on the climate and energy implications of crypto assets in the United States. The report notes that while the country is home to a sizable crypto asset sector, the sector can be energy intensive with its global electric use, comparable to the annual electric usage of all conventional data centers in the world. And what did we just pass last week? All of Trump's cryptocurrency legislation. 2 of them were passed. One by the House. I'm just writing it. I just wrote a big thing about this on the Facebook page. Michael and I did a video about it. It is something that Donald Trump is doubling down on. And it's extremely troubling from numerous perspectives. And one of them, not the least, the fact that he owns part of a stable coin company that he actually will now benefit from the legislation in the Genius Act. Okay, now here is Oklahoma. Name Computer Services Data Processing and Research Development Tax Exemption. Refund of state and local taxes on purchases of computers, data processing equipment, related peripherals, telegraph or telecommunication service and equipment. Must purchase 100,000 of exempt items. Must add 10 new full-time employees with an average salary of $35,000 who are employed for at least 6 months. Unspecified. This is just one tax.
$350,000. You're going to do this?
So here's the part that's the biggest part. We've authorized, now listen to this, because this is the Google Center in Pryor that people keep saying, but they do so much for the community. Google's put in this and this and this. Now listen, we've authorized a 100% tax abatement over 25 years in exchange for payments. No, this is Stillwater. I'm sorry, this is Stillwater. So 100% tax abatement over 25 years in exchange for payments in lieu of taxes back to the taxing jurisdiction. These pilots, they're called PILOTE, payment in lieu of taxes. Pilots amount to 15 to 20% of what the full taxes would be for the estimated values. And then there's the additional payments coming back to the city through some economic development payments Google will make to the city. And then also the city will collect a franchise fee on the power that's sold to the facility. So all told, in public benefit, it recoups about 40% of what we would expect to see if they were paying a full tax load, which is comparable to other data center projects you see around the country. It's actually a better deal than most. That's the one in Stillwater, folks.
Okay, well, if it's dead
40% of the taxes.
If it's dead in 10 years, you're only going to get taxes for 10. You only get those payments for 10 years because it's dead.
And it's not even but 40% of what they would be paying in actual taxes. That is insanity. That is an absolute giveaway of tax dollars.
No, so it's actually embezzling from your bank, letting them illegally embezzle from your tax fund.
That's a really great point, Teresa. So when they say, oh, well, we're going to get all this money from this franchise tax, are you really? No.
Well, I can guarantee you those contracts are written in their favor that say they'll do that if they can. But if they determine that they can't, then they'll have to stop. And guess what? They'll have to stop.
Which is funny because whenever I was talking to people, they said, way before my time, they said that whenever the Red Butte power plant came in, they were promised a fire department. They were promised a police department. They were promised a high school. Well, if you drive through Luther, you have a high school, but what happened to the other stuff? I mean, where was that, you know? So once again, you know, do it once, shame on me. Do it twice, shame on me. I mean, like, you can't do this. You were already promised something and you didn't get that. So what's going to be different this time from the first time? Are you going to actually get a fire department because you already got a high school from one power plant? I mean, it's still like, let's put it all together. Let's see, where's the money going? Can we afford a fire department without having an AI data center come in?
Do we have another option to get a fire department? I mean, we've got to have other options besides selling our souls to an AI data center and our land and our lives.
I mean, well, and I wanted to put this up because I asked Grok, because the other thing that when I talked to board member Jared Davis, he was surprised at two things. One, that the mayor had signed an NDA, and then the second was this one. Nationally, the U.S. Energy Department and the National Telecommunications and Information Administration are exploring federal guidelines Did you hear that word?
Yes. All the articles say
federal guidelines for data center growth focused on energy efficiency, security, and sustainability. But these aren't binding regulations and don't specifically target Oklahoma. In short, Oklahoma data centers face federal compliance requirements and local zoning oversight, but no state-specific regulatory framework unique to the industry. The state prioritizes incentives over restriction legislation. The local communities influence project approvals through zoning and environmental concerns. So please understand, I actually used AI to come up with this. I used AI to tell you that AI isn't helping you.
Well, I mean, all these articles from people, civil engineering articles, articles by tech companies, about tech companies, they all say there is no regulation in place anywhere you go. And until we get the regulation, we're always going to be playing catch up for the damage that was done. I mean, some of these PFAs never come out of the soil, and it takes decades to remediate the site.
So let me ask you this. So let's say they decide they're going to go ahead and zone this for, because they're just convinced they're going to get all of this money out of this. And then, so what ends up happening is Beltline comes in. They've never created a data center before. They've always done solar.
Timers.
Okay, so they're first timers at this. They put in this data center, they screw it all up, do whatever. Okay, now because there are no regulations on it at the state level and none at the federal level,
and none at the local level,
do you think that our town is going to be able to afford to sue a private investment corporation to clean up the mess they made?
Not at all. Not at all.
So who's screwed? Everybody point to me.
Because we are all local. This is all going to be our problem. They're not going to come back. They're not just going to be like, I'm so sorry, Luther, we messed up. No, it's going to be, sorry, we got to move on and we're going to try it somewhere else. And they're going to be our second data center. And now we know what we did wrong with the first one.
Well, and I think if you want to go to my Facebook page and actually look up, it's on my Jenny White Facebook page. And basically what I did was, I mean, look at the numbers of links I put in there. I mean, there are so many links and they come from, I mean, tech groups, I mean, all kinds of places that, so people can actually look at where the information is coming from. People need to do that. And I want to point out one thing, another post that I wrote the other day, because I was absolutely sick about this. In Edmond, they're fighting a Walmart that's coming. Yeah. I mean, and they've been fighting it for some time. Mm-hmm. And in the Edmond City Council meeting, the developer, his name is Jim Tapp. He actually lives out here in this area, owns lots and lots of developing, lots and lots of land that he develops. In the Edmond City Council meeting, his attorney said the following: if we have this kind of subjectivity, I just kind of wonder, where does it stop? Said attorney Todd McInnes, who spoke on behalf of developer Jim Tapp. Where does it stop when a private resident's rights are greater than private commercial rights when it comes to property? Are you shocked at that? I have to say, I was absolutely shocked. It's called the Constitution, and people have individual rights and property rights, not companies, not groups of people, nothing but individuals have property rights secured by the Constitution of the United States. I don't care whether you're in Edmond or Luther, that is the binding law of the land. That's where that comes from, Mr. Attorney for Jim Tapp. But this is where all of this is coming from. We have elected a governor, in my personal opinion, I'm not speaking for the other two ladies. We have elected a governor who doesn't care one stinking whit about the people of the state, or there would be protections in the law, and we would be prioritizing protections in the law for things like this coming into people's backyards. I'm absolutely shocked.
what are our options with the local government to be able to have a forum to speak about this and do our best to stop it. And also, I'm totally serious. I want a meeting called to let people vote on the fact whether or not they think that their mayor has the right to sign an NDA. How are you protecting your constituents if you're selling them to a corporation?
Yeah.
Well, you're protecting your constituents by manipulating it in your head this way. If we do this, the money will be spent in the community and that will benefit constituents. That's what they're saying. That's their thinking.
Okay, well, the money will benefit the constituents on a short-term basis, but the mayor, the board of trustees, or actually anybody in the world right now does not know what the long-term effects of these AI data centers are.
Oh, and I forgot to mention one thing about that Facebook post. Here's another paragraph from the article, because I posted an article that'll turn your stomach. Arguably, subjective criteria like visual compatibility are part of what inspired a renewed push this year at the Oklahoma legislature. Get this, for Senate Bill 647, which remains property of the state Senate for 2026. It wasn't passed last year, which means they can take it up in 2026 and run it again. It was Senator Avery Fricks from Muskogee authored 647. Now get this, saying earlier this year that it aims to limit NIMBYism, not in my backyardism, and would require city planning commissions or council to approve plats for any project that meets zoning and code standards.
Well, speaking of which, there's a special meeting day after or on Thursday that is about planning. So is that going to be about the AI data center? And is the public allowed into that meeting?
Well, the planning commission meetings are open to the public. They have to be. Every planning meeting has to be open to the public. And there is in order to change the zoning, there is a long process that the town is statutorily, so state law, required to do in order to change the zoning. And that takes over a month, just notifying neighbors and getting a public forum. So there is that.
And so if they notify the neighbors and the neighbors show up and there's enough of the neighbors that say, no, we don't want to do this, how much is enough?
You got to wonder, don't you?
Yeah. Will we get those answers? Because we haven't gotten any answers so far. It's just,
I mean,
like
literally, the man will not answer
on your
questions. He does not answer questions at all.
Well, one of you were saying, last time we talked, one of you were saying that you actually called the town about it, and they said, we don't know anything about it.
Destiny.
That's right. So I called the number saying like, hey, where do I sign this petition? And it was just like, what are you talking about? What data center? And it's like, that's silly. You know, you have to know. Luther, okay, for everyone, Luther is not that big. It's not like Edmond where you don't know anyone. Okay, no, this is a small town. And which I love. On the 4th of July, I talked to several different people that weren't even from Luther. One came from Midwest City, and I said, what in the world brought you all the way out here for 4th of July? And they said, well, we heard it was a family town, and that's what we're looking for. And I said, that is a beautiful answer, because that's why we moved out here. We want a family town. We don't want a data center town, you know? They think that bringing this in is going to bring more people. There's not. There's no way. You know, these 75 jobs that they are saying, which I really doubt that it's going to be 75 jobs. I think you're going to have
maybe construction.
Maybe at the first. They can't construct all the time. You know, they will at first, but once
that's
it's
why this study shows they drop by 90%.
Yes. So, and I think a big part that we're having a problem with is maybe the mayor's not taking us seriously because there's just not enough of us coming in and saying our 2 minutes. So what happens if we get 100 people in there and each of us have 2 minutes to talk and say, we don't want this. Let's be a little bit more of an inconvenience to these people, and maybe they'll take us serious, or at least they can say, oh, we have a line of people that are not for this. What is going to be the backlash if we pass this? They cannot go into it saying, we didn't know that you didn't want it. We're shocked. Oh my gosh, you didn't want this? Like, we have to get up. We have to go to these meetings. We have to use the small amount of time that we have, but we have to do it. So to let them know we're not going anywhere.
Well, I would agree. I having been the mayor of the town, I'm absolutely, this would not have been anything that I would have done at all. There would have been all kinds of meetings and openness, and I never would have signed an NDA with anything. I don't care what the town attorney, suggested. It's not okay. It's simply not okay to have a government structure in which you literally lock people out and say, we can't get business done because if you know the details, somebody else might know the details, and that could ruin the business deal. Then we shouldn't have the business deal in the first place. Okay. I don't think it's like rocket science to kind of put these things together. See, like if you do this, it becomes that. It's not hard. Well, ladies, I'm going to pull us off of here for now because I don't want people to have to, we want people to share this, and it needs to be done in the shortest amount of time for people to share it. So I will make a couple of clips so that we can get them around, because I think some of these things are super, super important. But I think it is extremely important that once we finish with this, those of you who are watching, share this video,
please,
and come to share it. Share it inside the town. Share it with the board members. But the most important thing is go to your own city council meetings, go to your own city planning meetings, do these things so that you know what is going on and continue to learn, because these people don't have a leg to stand on. Nothing is known about this. There is no regulation. The data centers that are here in Oklahoma right now don't provide any money back to the town. All they're doing is taking tax dollars. That's the bottom line. So these are the things that we need to get out. So any last words, ladies, before we get off of here today?
Hopefully see you guys Thursday at the meeting.
Yeah, we hope to see you.
And thank you so much for having us.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, in Luther, we have 2 meetings, the second Tuesday of the month and the 4th Thursday of the month. So that's when people need to attend. Everybody, thank you so much for being on today. We had a really nice audience. So appreciate the time that you took to watch this. This is an extremely important thing, an extremely important issue. Please make sure that you're aware of what's going on and continue to do your research and provide all of that when you have the opportunity, and be active and involved. So thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for joining us, my sweet new neighbors, Teresa and oh my gosh, I lost Destiny. I don't know why. I want to go to your M word, and then I'm like, Melissa, and I get all turned around. So Destiny and Teresa, thank you so much for being with us today, and so good to meet you. And let this be a platform for you. Let this be a blueprint for you to do what you need to do in your own town. So thank you so much for being with us. And we'll see you again on Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock at our regular time. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.